You're still stuck inside too? Well, sometimes you just need a good read. Is Concrete Jungle such a book? And don't worry, it has nothing to do with the video game. It came out long before that and has a completely different story. Some of you are relieved. A couple of you are disappointed. New York City is having a record-high heat wave, and while Detectives Schaefer and Raish are just hoping the normal crazies that come out during the heat are all they have to deal with, they soon learn that an intergalactic hunter has landed in their city. Taking names and taking heads, he's collecting trophies from both police officers and gangbangers. Realizing this is similar to what his brother Dutch, the protagonist of the first Predator movie, Arnold's character, had to go through back in the jungles of Latin America, he decides to retrace his brother's footsteps to figure out what these predators are up to. And as his partner Raish stays behind, he sees what might be the beginnings of an alien invasion. Overall, it's a fun read. Nothing Hugo Award winning, but it knows what it is and it does it very well. I never felt bored once. The descriptions were just at the right amount to not be overly weighed down, but just enough to make the story feel alive. It's also interesting seeing how the different tactics and methods the Predators are trying out in this book, especially when we finally see what happens when they go on the warpath. However, few stories can be said to be perfect, and this, unfortunately, is not one of them. The two leads are okay as far as character is concerned. I think they could have used Raish more. He's a fun character and likable from the get-go, but he's not in it nearly as much as his partner Schaefer is. Speaking of which, Schaefer takes a little bit of time to develop. He has some witty one-liners and some good quips, which is a good way to get brownie points from me, but it isn't until about halfway through the book where he gets to the jungle where you really get to delve into his mind, see what he's thinking, and watch him philosophize with himself about the nature of the predators, what goes in their heads, why they do what they do, making him pretty much one of the few characters in the series, both in film and in lit, to truly have a firm grasp what they are all about. Other characters, there's not much really to them. They're one note at best a lot of the time, and the rest of the time the characters are there to simply be cannon fodder for the predators. However, the worst character is the police chief. He's pretty much very cliched and he's been done better elsewhere. If you've seen Die Hard, you kind of get what I'm talking about. He's pretty much there to be out for the main two detectives for no good reason. Minor spoiler, but when the predators finally take him out, I was ready to cheer. Something that took me a little bit to get used to, and it might take others, is that it doesn't always have the normal breaks from perspective that you find in most other books. This might have been a stylistic choice. However, you can go from a character on the ground in their perspective, one paragraph, and then the next one, you're in a different character's perspective in a chopper kind of a deal. It didn't bother me too much, but it was noticeable. And despite my high praises for the action, there were a couple of scenes that made me go, what? The first fight, at one point, Schaefer gets thrown out of a 5-story window and practically walks it off. Yes, he has to go to the hospital. Yes, he has stitches and braces and parts. Yes, when he has round 2 with the Predator, it still hurts. But he still pretty much walked it off and signed himself out of the hospital. And he's still able to fight with little issue. Another one that's mostly a desperation ploy in round 2 is he tries to dual wield a automatic shotgun and an M16 at one point. Doesn't work, and again it's desperation, but it seemed a little too 80s action movie cliche. Granted, this might all be a moot point, as the first movie did have Arnold surviving a 100-foot drop from a waterfall, and it is the film franchise that introduced the concept to action movies and video games the world over to Minigun as infantry weapon. Overall, I'd say at least check it out. It may not be Hugo Award winning, but it's still a fun read and it's still a good read. If you like anything Predator related or if you like sci-fi, this might be worth checking out. At 258 pages, it's not a long book, but it's not short either. It's pretty much average length. Assuming you have an average reading speed of about 25 words per hour, and you do this for about an hour in a day, I think a typical adult can probably get through this in about 10 days, so you have a couple good weeks of enjoyment there. Reading level wise, I'd say maybe 5th or 6th grade level, maybe a little higher. If you can read a newspaper or a comic book, you shouldn't have any trouble reading this. Warning to parents though, this is a book based off the Predator franchise, so even though the reading level may be up to your kid's level or well below it, make sure they're old enough to at least be able to watch the movies or play the games. Because it will contain gore, it will contain violence, it will contain lots and lots of swearing, including plenty of F-bombs. This is Predator after all, although they don't say the famous line, pity. Now, if you still got a sci-fi fix and you still want to get into the Predator mythos, there are a couple books that could scratch that itch. Aliens vs. Predator Prey by father and daughter team Steve and Stephanie Perry, and Predator Incursion by Tim Levin. Both have great characters, both have good action, some suspense. You'll feel excited and intrigued and concerned for our heroes nonetheless. And both books lead into their own book series. Also, if you want, you could probably track down the comic book that this book, Concrete Jungle, was based off of. Well, the novel came out in 1996. The comic series ran from 1989 to 1990, so just prior to Predator 2. Next book, something a little shorter.